The 5 ships of Earth's diplomatic fleet hung in the darkness of space. Their hulls gleamed under the light of an unfamiliar sun. This was humanity's first meeting with the Krevlaxian Dominion, an alien empire that ruled hundreds of star systems. Admiral Diane White stood on the bridge of the lead ship, the USS Defender. She straightened her uniform and took a deep breath. After decades of searching the stars, humans had finally found intelligent alien life. The discovery had come 3 years ago, when strange signals reached Earth's deep space listening posts. Now, after months of travel, they were here for their first face-to-face meeting. "Status report," Admiral White said. Lieutenant Steve Clark looked up from his console. "All systems normal, Admiral. The Krevlaxian ships are approaching our position." "How many?" "Over 50 vessels, ma'am. Most appear to be warships." Admiral White nodded. Earth had sent its newest and best ships, but only 5 of them. The United Earth government had decided that a small fleet would appear less threatening for a first contact mission. The main screen flickered to life. A tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 eyes appeared. Strange markings covered its face and neck. When it spoke, the computer translated its clicks and whistles into English. "I am High Commander Zulvorex of the mighty Krevlaxian Dominion. State your purpose, humans." Admiral White stepped forward. "I am Admiral Diane White of Earth. We come in peace and friendship. We hope to establish diplomatic relations between our peoples." Zulvorex's upper eyes narrowed. "Is this all the ships you bring to meet the Dominion? 5 tiny vessels?" "We came as diplomats, not warriors," Admiral White replied. A harsh sound came from the alien. The computer translated it as laughter. "Diplomats? Do you know how many worlds bow to the Krevlaxian flag? How many species serve us?" Zulvorex turned to someone off-screen and said something the translator didn't catch. More laughter followed. Admiral White kept her face calm, but her hands tightened into fists by her sides. "Perhaps we could discuss trade agreements," she suggested. "Earth has much to offer." "Indeed you do," Zulvorex said. "Your world is rich in resources that would benefit the Dominion. Here are our terms. Earth will join the Dominion as a subject. World, you will provide yearly tributes of metals, minerals, and workers." The bridge crew exchanged worried glances. "I'm afraid those terms are not acceptable," Admiral White said. "We came here to establish relations between equals." "Equals?" More of that harsh alien laughter. "Look at your pathetic fleet. 5 ships against our armada? You are barely space-capable primitives. The Dominion has ruled the stars for 1,000 years." Zulvorex leaned toward the screen. "You have 1 Earth day to reconsider. Accept our generous offer, or we will take what we want by force. Your tiny fleet cannot stop us." The screen went dark. Lieutenant Clark looked at Admiral White. "They're not interested in diplomacy, are they?" "No, Steve, they're not." She turned to the communications officer. "Send a message to Earth. We need to speak with President Harris. Immediately." 2 hours later, Admiral White sat alone in her quarters, facing a secure video link to Earth. President Alan Harris looked grim. "So the rumors were true," the president said. "The Krevlaxians are conquerors, not friends." "Yes, sir. They expect us to surrender without a fight. They're overconfident and arrogant. They've completely underestimated us based on the size of our fleet." President Harris nodded slowly. "Their mistake. What's your assessment of their technology?" "Advanced, but not as advanced as they think. We detected weaknesses in their shield configurations. Their weapons are powerful but slow to recharge." "Can we win a fight?" Admiral White thought carefully before answering. "Not with 5 ships, sir, but they have no idea what we're really capable of." "Then it's time for protocol. Thunderstrike," the president said. Admiral White felt a chill run down her spine. Earth had prepared for this possibility ever since they detected the first alien signals. While the public knew about the 5 diplomatic vessels, they didn't know about the hundreds of warships built in secret. Hidden shipyards on Mars, Europa, and in the asteroid belt had been producing vessels for years. "I'll need time to get my fleet into position," she said. "You'll have it. I'll authorize General Pete Johnson to activate all hidden fleet elements. In the meantime, you need to stall the Krevlaxians." The next day, Admiral White faced Zulvorex again. The alien commander looked smug. "Have you come to accept our generous terms, human?" "We need more time to consider your offer," Admiral White said. "Our government structure requires consensus from multiple nations." "Primitive and inefficient," Zulvorek sneered. "You have one more day. Then we will begin taking your outer colonies." When the connection ended, Admiral White turned to her crew. "Prepare to withdraw to the jump point. Make it look like we're running scared." 6 hours later, the 5 human ships turned and fled from the Krivlaxian fleet. They didn't use their best engines. They didn't reveal their best defenses. They simply ran. Behind them, the Krivlaxian ships didn't give chase. They merely sent a message. "See how the humans flee. Truly they are cowards as well as primitives." But as the Earth ships jumped to faster-than-light speed, Admiral White smiled. The Krivlaxians would learn their mistake soon enough. Back on Tau, Earth preparation for war had begun. In the hidden shipyard orbiting Europa, Fleet Commander Greg Martinez walked down the line of advanced warships. Earth had been building these vessels for years, developing technology that could match or exceed anything they might find among the stars. In the labs beneath the lunar surface, Science Officer Samantha Kelly studied the scans of Krivlaxian shield technology. "There," she said, pointing to a pattern on her screen. "That's their weakness." In the White House, President Harris addressed the United Earth Defense Council. "The Krivlaxians have made their intentions clear. They expect us to be easy prey. They mocked our tiny fleet. They called us primitives and cowards." He looked around the room. "They will learn just how wrong they are." The next day, a Krivlaxian battle group attacked the human mining colony on Ganymede. They expected little resistance. What they found instead was the beginning of humanity's response, and the end of their empire's unchallenged rule of the stars. The attack on Ganymede left 37 humans dead. The Krivlaxians destroyed the main habitat dome, mining equipment, and communication arrays before leaving. They sent videos of the destruction to Earth as a warning. Fleet Commander Greg Martinez watched these videos in the control room of the Europa shipyard. His face remained calm, but anger burned in his eyes. The shipyard itself was hidden beneath the icy surface of Jupiter's moon. Here, away from prying alien eyes, humanity had built its real fleet. "Status report," he ordered. Lieutenant Amy Parker looked up from her tablet. "All 20 battleships are ready, sir. The carrier groups need another 12 hours. The stealth frigates can deploy immediately." Martinez nodded. "And the Sunbreaker weapon?" Engineer Frank Nelson reports final calibrations are complete on the prototype. Mass production begins today. Martinez walked to the main viewport. Below him stretched rows of warships, their dark hulls gleaming under the artificial lights. Each was many times larger and more powerful than the diplomatic vessels the Krivlaxians had seen. Each carried weapons the aliens couldn't imagine. "They think we're weak," Martinez said quietly. "They think we're primitive. They've never fought humans before." In the science labs beneath the lunar surface, Samantha Kelly worked with her team day and night. The data from Admiral White's encounter with the Krivlaxian ships had given them precious information about alien technology. "Their shields operate on a rotating frequency," she explained to engineer Frank Nelson. "It makes them strong against most weapons. But there's a pattern to the rotation." Nelson stroked his beard. "If we can predict the pattern, we can time our attacks to hit when the shields are weakest," Kelly finished. "The Sunbreaker missiles can be programmed to strike at exactly the right moment." Nelson smiled. "I'll add that to the targeting systems right away." Meanwhile, Earth Intelligence Officer John Ramirez had slipped aboard a Krivlaxian supply ship during the attack on Ganymede. Now he moved silently through the alien vessel, placing tiny spy devices in key locations. These would transmit valuable information back to Earth. As he worked, he overheard 2 Krivlaxian officers talking. His translator picked up their words. "These humans are even weaker than we thought," one said. "They didn't even try to defend their moon base. High Commander Zulvorek says their entire fleet is just those 5 tiny ships we saw," said the other. "Taking their planet will be easy." Ramirez smiled to himself. The Krivlaxians would learn their mistake soon enough. At the lunar military base, Lieutenant Kate Monroe led her fighter pilots through another training simulation. The holographic displays showed Krivlaxian fighter craft, their movements based on the data collected so far. Remember, she told her pilots, they're bigger and their weapons hit harder, but our ships are faster and more maneuverable. Use that advantage. The pilots nodded. They had been training for months, ever since the first alien signals were detected. Now that training would be put to the test. On Earth, President Alan Harris addressed the United Earth government in a closed session. The Krivlaxians have shown their true nature, he said. They attacked our colony without provocation. They demand our surrender. They believe we are weak. He paused. We are not weak. For years we have prepared for this possibility. While the public focused on the 5 diplomatic vessels, we built hundreds more in secret. Our technology is more advanced than the Krivlaxians realize. A government representative raised her hand. How soon can we strike back? Admiral White's fleet is already in position, President Harris replied. They're just waiting for the right moment. Far from Earth, Admiral Diane White's 5 ships had not fled far. They remained hidden behind a small moon, watching as more Krivlaxian vessels arrived in the system. The aliens were gathering for what they thought would be an easy conquest of Earth. Their fleet is growing, Lieutenant Steve Clark reported. 57 ships now, mostly warships. Admiral White studied the tactical display. Any sign they know we're here? No, ma'am. They think we ran all the way back to Earth. Good. Keep monitoring their communications. I want to know when High Commander Zulvorex arrives. 2 days later, a massive Krivlaxian dreadnought appeared. It dwarfed the other alien ships. This was the flagship of High Commander Zulvorex, come to oversee the conquest of Earth personally. Admiral White smiled when she got the news. Send the signal to Earth. Operation Thunderstrike is a go. Across the solar system, humanity's hidden fleet began to move. From Europa, 20 battleships emerged from their icy hiding place. From Mars, 5 carrier groups launched, each carrying dozens of fighter craft. From hidden bases in the asteroid belt, stealth frigates and destroyers set course for the Krivlaxian fleet. At the same time, Earth activated its orbital defense platforms. These massive weapons had been disguised as space stations or satellites. Now they revealed their true purpose. The Krivlaxian fleet approached Earth with supreme confidence. On the bridge of his dreadnought, High Commander Zulvorex prepared to demand Earth's surrender one final time before beginning the bombardment. Open a channel to the human leadership, he ordered. The screen lit up, showing President Harris. The human leader looked calm, which confused Zulvorex. Why wasn't he afraid? This is your final chance to surrender, Zulvorex announced. Bow to the Dominion or watch your cities burn. President Harris smiled slightly. We have a saying on Earth, Commander. Don't judge a book by its cover. It means appearances can be deceiving. Zulvorex didn't understand the strange human expression. You have 1 hour to surrender, then we attack. As the connection ended, alarms suddenly blared across the Krivlaxian dreadnought. One of the officers turned to Zulvorex in panic. Sir, our sensors are detecting multiple ships approaching from all directions. How many? Zulvorex demanded. Hundreds, the officer replied, his voice shaking. And they're not like the small ships we saw before. These are warships, sir, real warships. For the first time, doubt crept into Zulvorex's mind. Had he underestimated these humans? The answer came swiftly as the first wave of Earth's true fleet appeared from behind Earth's moon. The Krivlaxians had mocked humanity's tiny diplomatic fleet. Now they would face humanity's wrath. High Commander Zulvorex stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Where had all these human ships come from? Just days ago, he had mocked their pitiful fleet of 5 vessels. Now hundreds of warships surrounded his forces. This is impossible, he muttered. They are a primitive species. They cannot have built such a fleet. But the evidence was right before his 4 eyes. Human vessels approached from all directions. They were larger, more numerous, and appeared more advanced than anything he had expected. Sir, they're hailing us, a communications officer reported. The main screen activated, showing Admiral Diane White. She no longer wore the diplomatic uniform from their first meeting. Now she was dressed for war. "High Commander," she said calmly. "You seem surprised." Zulvorex fought to maintain his composure. "This deception changes nothing. The Dominion still outmatches your species." Admiral White smiled. "You judged us by our diplomatic fleet. That was your first mistake. Your second was attacking our people on Ganymede. We came in peace. You chose war." Before Zulvorex could respond, Admiral White continued, "You have 1 hour to leave this system. Never return." The screen went dark. Zulvorex turned to his second-in-command. "Prepare for battle. These humans may have more ships than we expected, but they lack experience. We have conquered 100 worlds. They will be no different." His officers rushed to obey, but doubt showed on their faces. Aboard the USS Defender, Admiral White met with her captains via holographic conference. They didn't have much time before the battle began. "The Krivlaxians won't retreat," she told them. "Their pride won't allow it. They'll attack, hoping their superior experience will overcome our numbers." Captain Lewis Ward of the battleship USS Valor spoke up. "Their shields are strongest at the front. We should target their engine sections with the Sunbreaker missiles." Admiral White nodded. "Agreed. Captain Ward will lead the first strike team. Focus on disabling their flagship. Lieutenant Olivia Russell, your fighter squadrons should target their communication arrays. Cut them off from each other." The captains acknowledged their orders, and the conference ended. Admiral White looked out at the stars. Soon those stars would be filled with weapons fire. Exactly 1 hour after Admiral White's ultimatum, the Krivlaxian fleet began to move. As predicted, they didn't retreat. Instead, they formed into attack position, their largest ships at the center. "They're powering weapons," Lieutenant Steve Clark reported. Admiral White took a deep breath. "All ships, battle stations, launch fighters, Operation Thunderstrike is now active. Across Earth's fleet, sailors and soldiers prepared for humanity's first interstellar war." In the fighter bays, Lieutenant Olivia Russell addressed her pilots one last time. "Remember your training. They're overconfident. Use that against them. Now let's show these aliens why they shouldn't have underestimated Earth." The pilots cheered and rushed to their fighters. The battle began with a massive volley from the Krivlaxian dreadnought. Energy beams lanced across space toward Earth's fleet, but the human ships were already moving, their engines pushing them into evasive patterns. Captain Lewis Ward's strike team accelerated toward the Krivlaxian flagship. His battleship, USS Valor, led 9 other vessels in a tight formation. Sunbreaker, missiles armed, his weapons officer reported. "Target their engines," Ward ordered. "Fire when their shields cycle to the predictable pattern." The science team under Samantha Kelly had done their work well. They had identified the pattern in the Krivlaxian shield rotation. There was a split second when the engines would be vulnerable. "Fire," Ward commanded. The Sunbreaker missiles launched from all 10 human ships. The specially designed weapons approached the Krivlaxian dreadnought from different angles. As they neared their target, the missiles suddenly accelerated to incredible speed. They hit at precisely the right moment. The Krivlaxian shields flickered and failed. The engines of the massive dreadnought exploded in a ball of blue fire. High Commander Zulvorex was thrown across the bridge as his ship shuddered. "What happened?" he demanded. "Engine section hit," an officer reported, panic in his voice. "Shields failed." "How did they know?" "All power to forward shields," Zulvorex ordered. "Prepare main weapons." But more problems were developing. Lieutenant Olivia Russell's fighter squadron swarmed around the Krivlaxian communication arrays. Their smaller weapons were precisely calibrated to disrupt the alien technology. "Target locked," Russell said into her comm. "All fighters, fire, at will." Dozens of human fighters fired simultaneously. The communication towers on the Krivlaxian ships exploded one after another. Across the Krivlaxian fleet, confusion spread as ships lost contact with each other and with their command vessel. Without central coordination, their careful formation began to break apart. Admiral White watched from the bridge of the USS Defender. They're disorganized. Now's our chance. All ships, attack pattern Delta. Earth's fleet moved with practiced precision. They had trained for this moment for years. The human vessels split into smaller groups, each targeting a different section of the Krivlaxian fleet. Aboard the crippled dreadnought, High Commander Zul'Vorex struggled to regain control of the battle. "Send messengers to the other ships," he ordered. "Tell them to regroup around us." But it was too late. The human attack had been too well planned, too precisely executed. One by one, Krivlaxian ships were disabled or destroyed. Captain Ward's strike team continued their assault on the flagship. With the engines destroyed, they targeted weapon systems next. More Sunbreaker missiles found their mark. Explosions rocked the massive alien vessel. Lieutenant Russell's fighters protected the larger human ships, intercepting Krivlaxian counterattacks. Her pilots moved with a speed and skill that shocked the alien warriors. "How are they doing this?" one Krivlaxian officer cried. "They were supposed to be primitives." 3 hours after the battle began, it was nearly over. Half the Krivlaxian fleet had been destroyed. Another third had been disabled. The rest were attempting to retreat, but human ships pursued them relentlessly. On the bridge of his ruined flagship, High Commander Zul'Vorex faced the bitter truth. He had underestimated these humans. He had mocked their tiny diplomatic fleet, never imagining they had hundreds more ships hidden throughout their solar system. His tactical officer approached nervously. "Sir, we've lost contact with most of our fleet. Our engines are destroyed. Our weapons are at 30%. We cannot win this battle." Zul'Vorex closed all 4 of his eyes briefly. Then he made the hardest decision of his life. "Open a channel to the human admiral," he said. "We will discuss terms." The main screen flickered to life, showing Admiral White's face. She looked at him calmly, without gloating. "You wish to surrender?" she asked. "To discuss terms," Zul'Vorex corrected stiffly. Admiral White nodded. "Very well. Here are our terms. You will leave this system immediately. You will acknowledge Earth's sovereignty. You will pay reparations for the lives lost on Ganymede. And you will take a message back to your dominion." "What message?" Zul'Vorex asked. Admiral White's expression hardened. "Never judge a species by the size of their diplomatic fleet." News of the human victory spread quickly across the Krivlaxian dominion. For centuries, their empire had expanded without serious resistance. They had conquered species after species, world after world. Now, for the first time, they had been soundly defeated. High Commander Zul'Vorex stood before the Krivlaxian High Council. His once proud uniform was torn and burned. One of his 4 eyes was bandaged. He had barely escaped Earth with his life. "How could this happen?" demanded Counselor Zevnar, the oldest and most respected member of the High Council. "You told us these humans were primitives. You said their fleet was tiny." "They deceived us," Zul'Vorex replied. "They showed us only their diplomatic vessels. They hid their true military power." Another counselor leaned forward. "How many ships did they really have?" "Hundreds," Zul'Vorex admitted. "And their technology." He paused, remembering how the human Sunbreaker missiles had cut through Krivlaxian shields like they weren't even there. "Their technology is more advanced than we estimated." The council chamber erupted in angry voices. This was unheard of. The Krivlaxian Dominion had the most powerful fleet in known space, or so they had always believed. Counselor Sevnar raised a hand for silence. "We have lost a significant portion of our fleet. We cannot afford another such defeat." He fixed all 4 of his eyes on Zul'Vorex. "Yet we cannot allow these humans to humiliate us. What do you suggest, High Commander?" Despite his disgrace, Zul'Vorex was still the Dominion's most experienced military leader. "We must rebuild our forces, adapt our technology, learn from this defeat." He straightened his shoulders. "And when we are ready, we will return to Earth, in such numbers that even their hidden fleet will be overwhelmed." The council nodded in agreement. The humans would pay for their defiance, but only after careful preparation. Meanwhile, back on Earth, a very different meeting was taking place. President Alan Harris sat with Admiral Diane White and the other military leaders in the White House war room. The Krivlaxians have withdrawn from our system, Admiral White reported. We destroyed or disabled more than 80% of their fleet. President Harris nodded. But they will be back, won't they? Without question, Fleet Commander Greg Martinez replied. They've ruled unchallenged for too long. Their pride won't allow them to accept this defeat. Science Officer Samantha Kelly spoke up. We should use this time to improve our technology. Further, the Sunbreaker missiles worked well, but the Krivlaxians will adapt their shields. Agreed, said President Harris, but we should also consider a more proactive approach. He looked around the table. The Krivlaxians came to our home and attacked us. Perhaps it's time we took the fight to them. Admiral White raised her eyebrows. You mean attack the Dominion directly? Not yet, the President replied. But intelligence reports that many species in the Dominion are held against their will. They might welcome liberation. Intelligence Officer John Ramirez nodded. During my time on their ship, I learned of at least 12 species that serve the Krivlaxians as slaves or unwilling subjects. Then perhaps it's time to make some new allies, President Harris suggested. 3 months passed. Earth's shipyards worked day and night, building more vessels and improving existing ones. Engineer Frank Nelson and his team developed the Sunbreaker 2.0, designed to overcome any adaptations the Krivlaxians might make to their shields. Admiral White, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, prepared for humanity's first venture beyond their home system. Earth would no longer wait for the Krivlaxians to return. They would take the initiative. A scouting mission was organized. 5 ships would travel to the edge of Krivlaxian space to gather intelligence and potentially make contact with other species who might oppose the Dominion. Captain Lewis Ward, whose performance in the battle had earned him great respect, was chosen to lead the mission. His ship, the USS Valor, had been repaired and upgraded. Remember, Admiral White told him before departure, this is primarily an intelligence-gathering mission. Avoid direct conflict with Krivlaxian forces if possible. Captain Ward nodded. And if we find potential allies? Use your judgment. The Ryu, President has authorized you to offer Earth's protection to any species willing to stand against the Dominion. The 5 ships departed Earth, using faster-than-light drives to reach the border of Krivlaxian space in just 2 weeks. They approached cautiously, using stealth technology to avoid detection. Sensors detect a small planet in the nearby system, reported Lieutenant Maria Lopez, Ward's second-in-command. According to the data we gathered from Krivlaxian computers, it's called Nexus 7, a mining colony. Captain Ward studied the information. Life signs? Yes, sir, but not Krivlaxian. The miners appear to be from a species called the Varians. Ward remembered the intelligence briefing. The Varians were one of the first species conquered by the Krivlaxians, nearly 200 years ago. They had been used as forced labor ever since. Any Krivlaxian military presence? Lieutenant Lopez checked her screens. Just one small patrol, ship in orbit. Ward made his decision. We'll approach under stealth, disable the patrol ship quickly and quietly, then we'll make contact with the Varians. The human ships moved silently toward Nexus 7. The lone Krivlaxian patrol vessel never detected them coming. A single, precisely targeted shot disabled its engines and communications. Captain Ward led a team to the surface of the planet. They found the Varians living in harsh conditions, forced to mine valuable minerals for their Krivlaxian masters. The aliens were thin, with gray skin and large, sad eyes. When Ward's team approached, the Varians cowered in fear. They had never seen humans before, but any visitors usually meant trouble. We're not here to harm you, Ward said, his translator converting his words. We're from Earth. We've come to offer you freedom from the Krivlaxian Dominion. The Varians looked at each other in confusion. One of them, slightly taller than the rest, stepped forward. Who are you that you can challenge the Dominion? He asked. Their power extends across hundreds of worlds. Captain Ward smiled. They came to our world recently. They mocked our fleet and demanded our surrender. His smile grew wider. It didn't end well for them. He showed the Varian leader videos of the battle near Earth. how the human fleet had decimated the Krivlaxian forces. The aliens watched in amazement. "You defeated them?" the Varian asked, disbelief in his voice. "We did," Ward confirmed, "and we're looking for allies who want to break free from their control." Hope appeared in the Varian's large eyes. It was an expression they hadn't shown in generations. "Tell us more," he said. 1 year had passed since humanity's first encounter with the Krivlaxian Dominion. In that time, Earth had changed from a single-system civilization to the center of a growing alliance. Captain Lewis Ward's mission to Nexus 7 had been just the beginning. The Varians had spread the word to other subjugated species. Soon, rebellions erupted across the outer regions of Krivlaxian space. Humans provided weapons, training, and most importantly, hope to those who had lived under alien oppression for generations. Admiral Diane White stood on the bridge of her new flagship, the USS Intrepid. It was 3 times larger than her previous vessel and incorporated technology humans had developed by studying Krivlaxian systems. Through the viewport, she could see dozens of other ships, not just human vessels, but ships from 6 other species who had joined Earth's alliance. "Fleet status?" she asked. Lieutenant Steve Clark, now promoted to commander, checked his console. "All ships report ready, Admiral. The Varian cruisers are in position. The Telsian battleships have charged weapons. Our own vessels are at full combat readiness." Admiral White nodded. This would be the largest military operation in human history. After months of planning and preparation, they were about to strike at the heart of the Krivlaxian Dominion, their homeworld, Krevlax Prime. Intelligence Officer John Ramirez approached with the latest reports. "Our spies confirm that High Commander Zulvorax has been rebuilding the Krivlaxian fleet. They've improved their shields to counter our Sunbreaker missiles." "But not our Sunbreaker 2.0, Engineer Frank Nelson added with confidence. He had personally overseen the development of the enhanced weapons. "They're expecting our old technology. They'll be surprised." Admiral White studied the tactical display. The plan was bold, but solid. While the main fleet engaged the Krivlaxian defenses, a smaller strike team led by Commander Betty Howard would target the planet's defensive platforms. Once those were disabled, the Alliance would have a clear path to the surface. "Send the signal," Admiral White ordered. "All ships prepare for hyperspace jump." Across the fleet, sailors and soldiers from 7 different species prepared for battle. They were united by a common goal: to end the tyranny of the Krivlaxian Dominion forever. On Krevlax Prime, High Commander Zulvorax stood in the Central Defense Control Room. The past year had been difficult. After his defeat at Earth, many had called for his execution. Only his long record of previous victories had saved him. Now he had one last chance to redeem himself. "Status of the defense grid?" he asked. "All planetary shields at maximum power," his officer replied. "Defense platforms fully armed. The home fleet is in position." Zulvorax nodded in satisfaction. Let the humans come. This time, he was prepared. This time, there would be no surprises. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the control center. One of the sensor operators called out in panic. "Multiple hyperspace signatures detected. Hundreds of ships." "Impossible," Zulvorax muttered. But before he could say more, the tactical display lit up with incoming vessels. Not just human ships, but Varian cruisers, Telsian battleships, and vessels from several other species that had once been part of the Dominion. "They've united against us," he realized with horror. "All those species we conquered." The human-led Alliance fleet emerged from hyperspace just outside the range of Krivlaxian defense platforms. Admiral White wasted no time. "All ships battle formation Delta," she ordered. "Commander Howard, begin your attack run on the defense platforms." Commander Betty Howard led her squadron toward the massive orbital weapons that protected Krevlax Prime. Her team included both human ships and vessels from their new allies. "Target the power nodes," she instructed her pilots. "Use the approach pattern we practiced. Remember, their tracking systems have a 3-second delay." Her squadron swooped toward the first platform, moving in an unpredictable zigzag pattern that confused the Krivlaxian targeting computers. They fired a barrage of Sunbreaker 2.0 missiles. The weapons pierced through the improved Krivlaxian shields and struck the platform's power core. It exploded in a brilliant flash of light. "One down," Howard reported, moving to the next target. Meanwhile, the main fleet engaged the Krivlaxian home defense forces. Despite their preparations, the Krivlaxians were overwhelmed by the size and coordination of the Alliance fleet. Ships from each allied species had different strengths, and they worked together perfectly to exploit the weaknesses of their common enemy. On the surface of Krevlax Prime, panic spread among the ruling elite. They had never imagined that their former subjects would unite against them, or that the humans would lead such an alliance. High Commander Zulvorex watched in dismay as one defense platform after another went dark. His carefully rebuilt fleet was being decimated. Again, "We must use the Stellar Hammer," he told his officers. This was the Dominion's most powerful weapon, capable of destroying an entire fleet. It was rarely used because it required draining power from the entire planet, leaving it vulnerable. But he saw no other choice. "Begin power transfer to the Stellar Hammer," he ordered. As the massive weapon began to charge, sensors detected a small team of ships approaching the facility. Captain Paul Garcia led a special forces unit specifically tasked with neutralizing this threat. Intelligence had warned them about the superweapon. "We have 6 minutes before that weapon is fully charged," Garcia told his team as they approached the surface in stealth shuttles. "We need to disable the main power coupling." His team landed under heavy fire. Using advanced combat suits, they fought their way through Krivlaxian defenders. Engineer Nelson had provided them with special explosive charges designed to overload the power systems. With just seconds to spare, Garcia's team reached the main power coupling and planted the charges. They retreated to a safe distance as the explosives detonated. The entire facility shook as power surges raced through the system. The Stellar Hammer, just moments from firing, went dark. In orbit, Admiral White received the news with relief. "All ships press the attack, target their command centers." With their superweapon disabled and their defenses failing, the Krivlaxian leadership faced the end of their empire. High Commander Zulvorex stared at the tactical display in disbelief as Alliance ships landed across the planet. Hours later, in the Grand Hall of the Krivlaxian High Council, representatives from Earth and all allied species gathered. President Alan Harris had traveled personally to witness this historic moment. "Today marks the end of the Krivlaxian Dominion and the beginning of a new era of cooperation among our peoples," he announced. "No longer will any species be forced to serve another. Together, we will build a galactic community based on mutual respect and freedom." The former subjects of the Dominion cheered. The Krivlaxian counselors, now prisoners in their own hall, watched in silence. Admiral White approached Zulvorex, who stood under guard. "You could have had peaceful relations with Earth," she told him quietly. "Instead, you chose to mock our tiny fleet and threaten our world." Zulvorex looked at her with defeated eyes. "A mistake no one will make again." Admiral White nodded. "Indeed. The universe will remember that humans may extend the hand of friendship, but we are not to be underestimated." As she turned away, Admiral White smiled. From a single planet to leaders of a galactic alliance in just 1 year. Not bad for a species once dismissed as barely space-capable primitives.